Today is Wednesday, July 8th, 2015, and today's rant, or this rant, will be entitled, If Trump Stopped Yakking. And what I mean by that is, wouldn't it be nice to go into some of the other things that are important that's going on here and around the world, as opposed to having at least a quarter to a half of all the stinking talk shows right now spending their time on Trump? I was over him a long time ago. Just as one person said, he wants to get on that debate floor. He wants to trash everybody, and then he's going to have to get out. The reason he's going to have to get out is because he's going to have to file all of his election, with the election commission, all of his holdings. Now, it doesn't have to be completely accurate. It has to be somewhat accurate. You can botch, not botch, but you can fudge a little bit here and there. But what he has to submit has to be pretty good reflection. And then however it is submitted, people can dig deeper and find out. And one person has famously said he will never do that because he will never show anyone how much money he really has, because if he really showed people how much money he really had, he doesn't have nearly as much as he says he has. And since he doesn't really have that much, his stature would go down very, very fast. And let's remember, when he was on, The Apprentice, his show, he did not own the rights to the show. He was just a paid actor for a show. And I always wondered, why a person who's worth $8 or $9 billion is drawing a check for, 100,000, 200,000, a couple 100,000 a week, for only 16 weeks or whatever, 20 weeks out of the year, to do a show when they're making astronomical amounts of money, which sounds like he's making millions upon millions of dollars per year, multi-millions to keep up to be worth $9 billion. So I wasn't on board this thing the whole time. The talk shows are sucking it up because I guess they know, what their target audience is and how it's going to work out. And I'm over it. So here, let's talk about a few things that I think have been going on that really deserve attention. And the one thing is that suddenly it does appear as if the Soviet Union is beginning to disengage from the Ukraine. Don't know if they're taking out all of their soldiers, but they are not continuing to arm them, provide them weapons, etc. They're beginning a slow disengagement. Don't know if there's been any fighting going on recently, but it's a clear indication that it's a little bit like Iraq. We went into Iraq with about half or a third of the force that was needed to truly win. And Putin went into Ukraine with not even that. And, of course, he said none of them were his. And then, of course, on social media, it had the pictures of them taking selfies with their Soviet uniforms on before they put on their other uniforms to pretend that they were somebody else. And he's not getting the kind of return, and it's going to be a long thing. It's going to bog down. And the hopes that he had of bringing Ukraine back into the Soviet, empire, whatever you call it, are just looking worse and worse. And he doesn't, since gas has gone so far down in the last year, because remember, it was only about a year ago that gas really started to go down. It was at $115 a barrel. Today it ended at like $52 a barrel. That's WTI, West Texas Intermediate, or whatever it's called, West Texas Crude. And they've had to dip into their sovereign funds because really Russia is like a failed petrostate. They don't have really any other good assets except for oil right now, and they've been far too dependent on it. And remember, it takes a lot more money to extract oil from Siberia than it does from Saudi Arabia. But I think it's very, very important. Now, Putin will say that they never went in there because he never acknowledged that they went in there in the first place. So you won't hear anything. And it doesn't allow our friends on the Republican side to talk about what a great leader Putin is as compared to Obama. So remember, Obama, working with the European partners, some of them reluctantly, have gotten Putin to start pulling out. Things could change, but to start pulling out of the Ukraine without any American or let's just say NATO forces going in there. Now, remember, Putin's not going to stop what he's doing because, remember, we've seen that there's been Soviet subs in different areas, that Lithuania, Estonia, and Latvia want NATO personnel near their borders because they fear that Russia might try a quick over-engage because they're such small countries. So it's not completely over. But you're not going to hear our Republicans' friends praising Putin for his leadership. And Soviet Union, remember, oil's going down because of China, which I'll talk about in a minute, and also because if we strike a deal with Iran, Iran's going to be pumping more oil, and we're already saturated right now, which is bad news for Russia. And that's good news for the United States. That's good news for Europe. That's good news for Mr. President Obama. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is China. And since June 11th, the Chinese market, whichever one it was, the Hang Seng or the Shanghai, has gone down 30% pretty much. I believe I read, it's all fudgy numbers, but $3.2 trillion has been lost, paper money, just in the last month. Now, there has been talk about a bubble within the Chinese markets for last 6 to 8 months, something like that. And it's coming to fruition. And what may be actually accelerating it is the Chinese government trying to get in, trying to manipulate and say everything is fine, just like Enron did and just like WorldCom did, where they told their employees to keep buying their stock because the stock was going to continue to go sky high. And people had cashed in their 401ks or transferred all their 401k money into Enron stock. And it was worthless because that guy, I can't remember his name, I know he died, he was selling the stock as he was telling them to buy it. So if China it appears as if China is sort of trying to say, hey, everything is fine, everything's working great, and it's going down. And I think yesterday, and of course it's we'll find out within 12 hours how that's going to be in China. I think it went down 6 or 7% in one day, and it's gone down 30% in a month. So that is something that really needs to be looked at because remember, right now, they are the second largest economy in the world. And they draw a lot of material. They buy a lot of material from the United States and all over the world. So this could be a worldwide thing that could affect things. Now, the next thing I'd like to talk about is has relation to Greece, is that we know that Greece can really never repay the debt. And that the country that is most adamant about Greece repaying its debt is Germany. And as Thomas Pinckney, I believe his name was, aptly pointed out, that Germany, number one, never paid back all its debts from World War I. Germany, number two, did not pay back its debts from World War II. Germany, number three, got I believe it was France to pay back its debts. The war was, I believe, around 1870 or so. So, and of course, he said it was around 1953 that we wiped out all of those debts for Germany. So here it is, Germany, and that if we hadn't have wiped them out, they still might be paying those debts, just like in 60 years from now. Greece would still be paying back its debt if we don't wipe it free. So a little bit of a hypocrisy there. I think we should look more into that, and it should be broadcast more to let Germany know we've got to find a way to let the Greece people take care of their country, cut back where they need to cut back, get investment where they need to get investment, and find a way to cut unemployment in that country, which I believe was either 23 or 26%, and close to 50% for the youth of Greece who are going, why should we pay this back? We didn't even bring this on. And remember, it was banks in Germany and in other countries that lent them the money when they knew it was a big risk anyway. And the last thing I'd like to talk about is ISIL. And what I'm seeing right now, which is it's not disconcerting because it's just the pattern that's going to go along, is we have a failed state in Syria. We know that. That's what's been going on. That's what started ISIL. That's what allowed ISIL to get going. Also, the northern part of Iraq is a failed state. And that I believe that the size of the Syrian Iraq territory that ISIL is in command of, possibly, if you want to use that term, 2/3 the size of Texas, or maybe just the whole size of California. It's a lot. I mean, that's a lot of territory to be covering, and it is not going to happen anytime soon, because we can't have Americans going out there dying, because that will be a 10-year war. Unless we want to have a draft or what do you call it when everyone has to go into the army? Conscription, and start sending people over there and amass an army of, I believe it would take at least 500,000 people to secure all of the areas. Of course, and we'd also have to invade Syria. And then we'd have to divvy it up afterwards, because we'd have to get a government established in both Syria and in northern Iraq. And we don't want to do that. We can't do that. They have to find, and Iraq has to find its own solution. Not really sure what's going to happen in Syria, but this is not going to end. And anyone on the right-hand side, any of our friends over there that said it's going to take 10,000 troops to wipe out ISIL, it's not just wiping them out. It's taking over the territory, getting all of the governments running back and up again, getting all the infrastructure running back and up again, having to be there to protect the yaks, the people there, the Kurds, the Shia, and many of the other sects. There's a fair amount of Christians, I believe, that were in Syria at one time. I mean, it's a clusterfuck. And it's going to keep going. It's going to be sad. And we may be talking about the same thing in 5 years.